America's biggest battle tank ever. The story of the T-28 Super Heavy tank. Imagine driving a tank so massive that ordinary roads could barely support its weight. A machine so wide it had to remove part of its tracks just to travel by train. A vehicle so heavily armored that, during its time, almost no enemy gun could penetrate its front armor. This wasn't science fiction. It was real. This was America's biggest and heaviest armored fighting vehicle ever built, the T-28 Super Heavy tank. But despite its incredible size, the T-28 never fired a shot in combat. How did the United States end up building such a gigantic machine? Why was it created? And why did it disappear for decades before being rediscovered by accident? Today, we're uncovering the complete true story of America's biggest battle tank ever. To understand why the T-28 existed, we need to go back to the final years of World War II. By late 1943 and early 1944, Allied forces were preparing for the invasion of Western Europe. Intelligence reports warned American planners about Germany's massive defensive fortifications, especially the Siegfried Line. The Siegfried Line stretched hundreds of miles along Germany's western border. It consisted of thousands of concrete bunkers, anti-tank obstacles known as Dragon's Teeth, fortified machine gun positions, tunnels, and heavily defended strongpoints. Military planners feared that standard American tanks, including the famous M4 Sherman, would struggle against these defenses. The Sherman was reliable, fast, and easy to produce, but its armor and gun were designed primarily for mobile warfare, not smashing through reinforced concrete fortifications. The US Army wanted something completely different. Instead of speed, they wanted overwhelming armor and a gun capable of destroying bunkers and any German tank it encountered. This requirement led to one of the most ambitious armored vehicle projects in American history. In March 1944, engineers began designing what was initially called the T-28 heavy tank. Its mission was unique. Unlike conventional tanks designed for maneuver warfare, the T-28 was intended to slowly advance directly toward enemy fortifications while shrugging off incoming fire. The designers gave the vehicle extraordinarily thick armor. The front hull featured up to 12 inches, or approximately 305 millimeters, of solid steel armor. At the time, this was among the thickest armor ever installed on an American armored vehicle. This level of protection made the T-28 nearly immune to most German anti-tank guns from the front. Even Germany's feared 88mm guns would have faced enormous difficulty penetrating the T-28's frontal armor under many combat conditions. Its side armor was also exceptionally thick, providing protection far beyond that of ordinary American tanks. The goal wasn't speed. The goal was survival. The vehicle's main weapon was the powerful 105mm T5E1 gun. This high-velocity cannon was specifically chosen because it could engage both reinforced concrete structures and heavily armored enemy vehicles. Its armor-piercing ammunition could threaten even Germany's heaviest operational tanks, including the Tiger II, under favorable conditions. The gun also fired high-explosive shells effective against bunkers, walls, and defensive positions. Unlike many American tanks, the T-28 did not have a rotating turret. Instead, the gun was mounted directly into the front of the hull. This design reduced weight compared to an equally armored turret while allowing even thicker frontal protection. However, it also created major tactical limitations. To aim at targets far to the left or right, the NTARS, vehicle had to turn. This made engaging multiple moving targets much slower than with turret-equipped tanks. One of the most remarkable aspects of the T-28 was its weight. Early designs weighed around 86 tons, but as armor requirements increased, the final prototype reached approximately 95 short tons, or about 86 metric tons. This made it the heaviest armored fighting vehicle ever built by the United States. Moving such enormous weight presented serious engineering challenges. To distribute the pressure across the ground, engineers designed an unusual four-track system. Instead of one track on each side, the T-28 had two tracks on each side. the outer tracks could be removed for transportation. This was necessary because the complete vehicle was too wide for normal rail transport. Removing the outer tracks reduced the width enough for railway movement. Even then, transporting the T-28 remained an extremely difficult operation, requiring significant preparation. Power came from the Ford GAF V8 gasoline engine. This engine produced approximately 500 horsepower. While reliable in the lighter M26 Pershing tank, it struggled under the T-28's enormous weight. As a result, the vehicle's maximum speed was only around 8 miles per hour, or roughly 13 kilometers per hour. Cross-country movement could be even slower depending on terrain. Its operational range was approximately 100 miles, or around 160 kilometers, under ideal conditions. Fuel consumption was extremely high due to the vehicle's tremendous weight. This meant logistics would have been a constant challenge during extended operations. The crew consisted of 4 men. These included the commander, gunner, loader, and driver. Unlike many tanks, there was no separate bow machine gunner, because the hull-mounted gun occupied much of the front structure. Crew members operated in cramped conditions despite the vehicle's enormous exterior dimensions. Communication and coordination were critical because every movement required precise teamwork. Turning such a heavy machine while maintaining accurate fire demanded skill and patience. As development progressed, confusion arose regarding the vehicle's classification. Because it lacked a rotating turret, Army officials questioned whether it should even be called a tank. In 1945, the vehicle was redesignated as the T-95 gun motor carriage. This reflected its fixed gun configuration. Later, however, the Army returned to calling it the T-28 because its role more closely matched that of a heavily armored assault tank than a self-propelled gun. Today, historians commonly refer to it as the T-28 Super Heavy Tank, although both T-28 and T-95 designations were officially used during its development. Originally, the Army planned to build 5 prototypes. However, World War II ended before production could expand. Germany surrendered in May 1945. The massive fortifications that had inspired the T-28's creation were no longer a priority. Attention shifted toward the Pacific War against Japan. Although planners briefly considered using the T-28 against Japanese defenses, Japan surrendered in August 1945 before the vehicle could be deployed. With the war over, military priorities changed dramatically. The need for an extremely slow breakthrough vehicle disappeared almost overnight. Ultimately, only 2 pilot vehicles were completed. Testing continued after the war. Engineers evaluated mobility, reliability, and mechanical performance. The results were mixed. The T-28's armor impressed observers. Its gun proved powerful and accurate. However, mobility remained a major weakness. The vehicle's enormous weight placed tremendous strain on its engine, transmission, and suspension. Maintenance was difficult. Recovery presented an even bigger problem. If a T-28 became stuck, damaged, or immobilized, few vehicles were capable of towing it. Bridges capable of supporting its weight were also limited. In real combat, these logistical problems would have significantly restricted its usefulness. Military planners increasingly realized that future armored warfare would require greater mobility rather than simply thicker armor. Another challenge was the changing nature of anti-tank warfare. By the late 1940s, advances in shape-charge weapons and improved armor-piercing ammunition reduced the advantages of extremely thick steel armor. Instead of building ever heavier tanks, designers began focusing on better armor design, more powerful engines, improved suspension systems, and eventually composite armor technologies. The T-28 represented the end of one philosophy of tank design. It was the ultimate expression of the idea that thicker armor could solve battlefield problems. History would soon prove otherwise. In 1947, the T-28 program officially ended. One prototype was scrapped, the other seemingly vanished. For decades, historians believed both vehicles had been destroyed. The surviving T-28 became one of the greatest mysteries in American armored vehicle history. Then, something unexpected happened. In 1974, workers at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, discovered a gigantic armored vehicle abandoned in a field. Covered in vegetation and left exposed to the elements, it had been sitting unnoticed for years. It was the missing T-28. The discovery surprised military historians. Many had assumed no examples survived. The vehicle was recovered and preserved. Today, it remains the only surviving T-28 super heavy tank in the world. It is displayed at the U.S. Army Armor Cavalry Collection at Fort Benning, now known as Fort Moore, in Georgia. Thousands of visitors have seen this incredible machine up close. Ere its massive size continues to impress everyone who stands beside it. How does the T-28 compare with famous tanks of World War II? The M4 Sherman typically weighed around 30 tons. The German Tiger weighed about 57 tons. The Tiger II weighed roughly 69 tons. Even Germany's giant Jagdtiger tank destroyer weighed around 79 tons. At approximately 95 short tons, the T-28 outweighed them all. Its frontal armor exceeded that of nearly every operational tank of the war. Yet despite these impressive numbers, size alone did not guarantee battlefield success. Mobility, reliability, logistics, air support and crew training often proved just as important as armor thickness. The T-28 has frequently appeared in documentaries, military museums, books, and video games. Its unusual appearance, with 4 tracks, enormous armor, and turretless design, makes it instantly recognizable. Many people mistakenly believe it was built to fight German Tiger tanks. While it certainly could have engaged heavy German armor, its primary purpose was to destroy fortified defensive positions like those found along the Siegfried Line. That distinction is important. The T-28 was designed first as an assault vehicle, not as a tank hunter. Several myths continue to circulate online. One common claim says the T-28 was completely invincible. That is false. Although its frontal armor was exceptionally thick, no armored vehicle is invulnerable. Flanking attacks, mines, artillery, mechanical failures, air attacks, or specialized anti-tank weapons could still disable it. Another myth suggests thousands were planned for production. This is also incorrect. The Army planned only 5 pilot vehicles, and only 2 were completed before the project ended. Some people also claim it fought during World War II. There is no evidence that the T-28 ever saw combat. Both prototypes remained in the United States throughout their service lives. Even though it never entered battle, the T-28 taught engineers valuable lessons. Testing highlighted the practical limits of extremely heavy armored vehicles. Future American tank development shifted toward balancing firepower, protection, and mobility. These lessons influenced later generations of armored vehicles. The United States eventually developed tanks such as the M46 Patton, M47 Patton, M48 Patton, M60 Patton, and later the M1 Abrams. Rather than relying solely on massive steel armor, these tanks combined improved engines, better suspension, advanced fire control systems, and increasingly sophisticated armor technologies. Modern main battle tanks continue following this balanced approach. Standing beside the T-28 today, it's difficult not to be amazed. Its hull towers above visitors. Its gun stretches forward like the barrel of a naval cannon. Its 4-track system looks unlike almost anything else ever built. Every inch reflects the urgency and uncertainty of wartime engineering. The T-28 was created because military planners believed they faced an almost impossible obstacle. Engineers responded with one of the largest armored vehicles America has ever produced. Although history moved in a different direction before it could fight, the T-28 remains an extraordinary example of innovation under pressure. It reminds us that not every groundbreaking military machine becomes a battlefield legend. Some become legends simply because they pushed engineering to its limits. And among all the armored vehicles the United States has ever built, none was bigger, heavier, or more imposing than the T-28 Super Heavy tank. It never stormed the Siegfried Line. It never crossed into Germany. It never fired its powerful 105mm gun in combat. Yet decades after its creation, the T-28 still stands as one of the most fascinating armored vehicles in military history, a steel giant built for a battle that ended before it ever began.